have been molested, right? That's why it's so important to tell that because there's so many of us and so many of our kids. It's happening right now as we speak. Somebody's getting molested, right? So I remember getting molested, and thinking that was the deal, right? That was my pain. That was my wound, getting molested. And then the other day, I was thinking about that because I was in a group and I heard someone say, "Oh, I was molested." Um, so the other day, I'm thinking about that, and I said, "Damn, I healed from that, didn't I?" I said, why is it coming up? Because it just came up. What I didn't deal with was the molestation wasn't shit. It was I think I was 6, the kid was 9. Um, I, you know, I don't know how much of it was him being a predator or him being curious. I mean, again, this is years later. What hurt me, the wound that was still there, was the fact that when my father found out that I was molested, he called me a faggot. And he kicked me from one side of the street. I'm serious. I went up in the air and I landed up on the other side of the street. He grabbed me by my hair, brought me to my house, and took soap and put that shit in my mouth and made me swallow most of it. So I didn't make peace with that part of it, and that's shame. My father was ashamed of me, and I carried that shame, and it's still there. So this is just the other day. I'm 59 years old. I thought my healing was done. I've been in recovery 29 years. What the hell is this? No, I don't think it's done until it's done. So it's always, and that's why it's so important for us to get to our story quick. I don't have to wait for it to be kicked up if I'm talking to a kid. I got to be willing. And that's the whole thing about being a Spark Messenger, right? Mm-hmm. That's the whole thing about my work. What my boss couldn't do, why I could do it, because I'm willing to go there, and I'm willing to go there right away. Mm-hmm. Just like you did. Exactly. Just like, because that's where the healing is going to take place. Mm-hmm. So this is practice for that. But, I'm a Spark Messenger. I'm a healer. But damn, I'm so fresh still after all these years in the healing process myself.
I want to add a little something to that. Going back to how this process is an ongoing. I think it's important that people know that you don't identify something you get it. It's work, and there's so much more that uncovers. I like what you said, that honesty, there's so many levels of honesty, just like there's so many levels of healing in whatever particular area it is. I was molested at the age of 6. My father was an alcoholic that seeked attention through the outside, and my godfather was the really good guy that represented the best of the bunch. And with almost 15 years in recovery and some, work with the inner child, I married a man that resembled both my godfather and my father, and in a nutshell, he was just unavailable emotionally. Why? Because I picked someone that was also molested, someone that was also wounded and hurt and had not done some healing. And it has nothing to do with this person. It has to do to what I am attracted to or was attracted to still. And I'm in that healing process. A year later, divorce. And while he had wonderful qualities as a person, right, there was this issue that sometimes forgiveness is at a high, and sometimes forgiveness is not on a high. It's forgiveness is a daily process, and sometimes it's a minute at a time. So there's still some healing that's happening even with that. And in my best days, I can say, hey, that was a wonderful lesson. Mm-hmm. And then on some other days, I have to give myself permission to say, you know what, that was a fucked up lesson. And that's life, right? Life does show up. Life does happen. what do I get out of it, and how do I heal? How do I get to the other side? So what's the great thing? I'm not while unavailability seemed different before, married men's or multiple partners or someone that maybe was in a lifestyle that definitely was not available. Right now it's more of the emotional and maybe the mental part that I may still or have still gravitated to. Have I learned my lesson? I don't know. Have I gotten better with it? Yes, because I was able to explore that sometimes it's not so much about analyzing the issue of more than what's some of the solution that I can get here so I can heal and have a better choice, maybe tomorrow. So I guess what I just want to stress is that healing is an ongoing process, and it never ends. There's so many layers to it. I don't want to deliver a message that, we're broken and we're going to be broken forever. We got to work on it. No. The wonderful thing is that we can see where there is some brokenness and how do I mend that and be gentle with myself in the process, because there's also a part of me and many of us that can be so critical with ourselves and not even know that we're being critical. That linger piece of self-loathing and low self-worth. I'm not worthy and I'm not deserving always wants to creep up. And it's awesome and it's important to identify when she or it's coming up and how do I nurture that so I can then move on and nurture that myself, right? Being a year alone, having many times of feeling lonely and knowing enough today that nurturing doesn't mean that I get together with anybody and I'm going to feel better, because it's only going to add to me. It's like, who is Martha now? Let me redefine Martha, and whatever choice or decision that I make, that I can be okay with it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, but it took me some time to get where I'm at today. It took me some time, yeah.
I was gonna say, because there's more to my story. After, for a whole lot of years, my way of getting back to my brother was, as soon as my mother dies, I'm gonna beat the shit out of him. That was my, in an unconscious way, that's my out. That's my redemption. As soon as mommy dies, I'm gonna beat the shit out of him. What happened is that I think I had about maybe 4 or 5 years clean. The brother who did it was in the hospital dying from complication of AIDS. I didn't go see him because the anger was still, even though I had shared about it, the anger towards him was like, even, I wouldn't say at its highest, but it was still there enough for me to prevent me from going to see him. He passed away. My brother, my older brother, who caught him doing it to me, he was at the funeral, at the wake. He goes, listen, we got to talk. Now, this is the first time, mind you, I'm 40, almost 44 matter of fact, I'm about 44, 45 at the time, because I was already working for Con. He goes, we got to talk. That's the first time in almost 40 years that he even said anything to me about it. We never said a word to it. Family functions, Christmas, holiday. Even when he seen me, we never said a word about that. He goes, we need to talk. Sat in his car, and he starts to cry. I mean, like uncontrollably. And he goes, listen, I just want to tell you that he didn't say it exactly, but he was trying to say that my brother who passed away was saying he was sorry for what he did to me. Then my older brother tells me that it happened to my brother who passed away from the neighbor down the hall. And it wasn't till then, right? And I realized this afterwards. It wasn't till then that I had an identification with him, the abuser. I understood at that point, and I began the process of understanding why the fuck he did it. Not that it was right, obviously, but it gave me a start to try to forgive him. And once I started the process of understanding why he did what he did, also began the process of forgiving him for what he did. And it wasn't until I forgave him for what he did, because I realized it happened to him, that I was able to, in the sense of what you were saying, of being a little bit more, for lack of a better word to use at this point, understandable and comfortable with what happened to me. Because even though I forgive him, right, I still didn't forget. But with that, I was able to let go.
You heard his story.
Yeah. I was able to let go of the anger.
There was some empathy there too.
Yeah, exactly. Empathy. I was able to let go of that anger that had held me for so many years. Like he said, my sick mind, when I used to sell drugs, I'm going after the big dude. Because if I knock out the fucking big dude, everybody else is going to fall into place. Mm-hmm. And I always chose the, 6'6", 2 something. If I take him out, I'm good. Because I wanted to be tough. And not only that, if I show you that I'm that tough, nigga, you ain't coming you're not coming at me. Because of the fear.
The defense is
the
defense mechanism, yeah.
That to God forbid I'm vulnerable. Because then I was vulnerable at that age, and somebody took advantage of me. So for many years, there's no way in the world I'm going to show you that I'm vulnerable or I'm scared. Because most of the time that I fought, it was out of fear. That if I lose, or this motherfucker, he's going to take advantage of me. I mean, like, that's where I was.
How do you deal with vulnerability now?
I'm okay with vulnerability. I'm okay with being vulnerable, because I realize, right, just because I'm vulnerable to another man, I'm not even going to mention women, another man, and he's not out to hurt me. So I know that being more vulnerable to another man or another human being, in that regard, that it's okay to be vulnerable. Because not everybody's out to hurt me. And I've been vulnerable to these guys because we used to hang out. I've been vulnerable in sharing some stuff that, quote unquote, another man wouldn't normally share with another man of how he feels. Right? Because it's hard for another, at least in my opinion, it's hard for me it was hard. It's not hard now, but it was hard for me to share my feelings with another man. Whether if it was like, I really love this girl and she cheated on me and that should hurt me. And I'm like, yo, man, fuck that. Excuse my language. Fuck that bitch, bro. Go get another girl. That's usually what you're going to get. A kind of response like that. You're not going to get a response where, yo, man, that happened to me too. But it's okay. Like, you know what I mean? You're able to talk with another man about those kind of issues. Until I became vulnerable and realizing that being vulnerable was okay. However, right, like you both said, there's still times where that, the fear, the anger, and everything else that came about from that situation will rear its ugly head, and I won't become vulnerable. Or if I become vulnerable and you take advantage of that vulnerability, now I'm ready to attack you. So I know when it arises, or those situations, those arise, or those thoughts, or I want to act on those behaviors, and then I'm going to end, I'm not going to end, but I'm just going to, there was an issue. I had a guy at work, right? There was a situation where I was able to make some overtime, but he was so self-centered, he worried about him. So it took away the advantage of me, or the opportunity for me to make money in overtime. After that incident, I didn't talk to that guy for 2.5 years. Because I felt he took advantage of me, right? For 2.5 years, I didn't talk to this dude. It wasn't until about maybe 2 months ago, I was sitting in the locker room, he walks in, he's walking around, he's talking shit, where the urge, you talk about that rage that you have for that guy, the urge and the rage that I had, I wanted to literally just go up to him and just start beating the shit out of him. At that point is when I knew there was something really, really wrong. Because until that point, not talking to somebody for 2.5 years, hey, fuck it, I don't need him.
Can I add to that real quick? Like you just added, right? Which took it to